Hiya, welcome to Bike Social. I'm John. I'm near Winchester at the moment, on my way to Christchurch. I'm on the BMW G310GS and I just wanted to pull over, stop and let you know how I'm getting on with the bike and what I've done with it so far. Okay, so here is the bike. Obviously it's a little 310cc single. I own a KTM 1050 Adventure as well, and my mates think I'm daft riding this all the time. So it's going to be too small, too vibey, just no good for long distance touring or anything like that. So what I've done on the trip today is I've set this Garmin 396 LMTS for adventurous routing. This is Garmin's new sat-nav. And on the way on here, I've just set it up so that it will give me the twistiest routes possible. Now that means it's taken it from what would have been about 3.5 hour journey to about 6.5 hours, about 207 miles. So it's not a long distance, but it's a fairly long time in the saddle. And I'm about 4.5 hours in so far. And I've got to say, honestly, it's been really comfy and it's been a pleasure to ride this bike. Obviously, because I'm on twisty back roads, I'm not going flat out all the time, you know, 60, 65, maybe 70. But the route I'm on at the moment, just pulled over here, it's just a small lane, you know. There's been some beautiful roads I've been on, but a lot of them have been really really quite tight, and a couple of times met traffic coming the other way. I had to get off the road, and when it was rough on the side of the road, or you know, a gully or something, you know, just a little dip in the road, it was so good being on this. Whereas on my KTM, it's big and heavy, and there's been a couple of times when I've taken a wrong turn or something, and when I wanted to go back and have a look at something. Turning this round is so much easier and so much more confidence in this, because I'm not wobbling off and thinking, oh, am I going to drop this? You know, this bike is so much easier to handle. So honestly, really impressed with it. I just thought I'll show you around what I've done to it so far, really, how I've, you know, any little modifications I've made. So the main thing is crash protection. And I did Moto Gymkhana the other day, which was brilliant. I put the crash protection on thinking, well, there's a good chance I'm going to drop it. Turns out there's not a good chance I'm going to drop it. It's just a lot of fun and really unlikely to drop it, but that's for another video. So still useful to have. I've put these R&G front fork protectors on. This R&G crash bars, massively useful. If I drop it, hopefully I won't, but you know, they're quite compact, tuck in nicely and just give a good bit of protection on there. And fortunately I haven't had to use them yet. Hopefully I won't. I've also put on these swing arm protectors. Now obviously if you went down on the left hand side, your exhaust is going to go down, but it just stops getting scuffs on the swing arm. But also these ones, they're offset, so there's a larger bracket that you have to replace, goes in between the axle, and that makes it clear so it doesn't hit the exhaust. But that gives you, you know, you can cup a paddock stand around here, and brilliant for adjusting the chain. So I have actually crashed G310GS on the launch, and I can tell you that the main bit of damage really was just a scuff. It was on the left hand side I went down, but it was a scuff on the other side on the grab rail, mark on the peg and a mark on the bar end. That was it. So really impressed with how they go down. Now this one I've actually put bark blasters on here as well. These are the new G310GS specific ones. They go on after the bar end weights. If you put generic ones on, you have to take the bar end weights on and put them on here, and the levers poke out on here. The levers obviously are contained within the aluminium frame. So these keep my hands warm in the winter. That's not an issue at the moment, and they'll protect me if I go really hardcore through some trees, which I'm probably not very likely to, but they look cool as well. So obviously you can see I've got two sat navs on at the moment. That's not because I'm paranoid about getting lost. It's because I'm testing this 396 and I'm just comparing it to the TomTom Rider 450 at the moment. You also see I've got this Jivy handlebar bag, which has been absolutely brilliant on this trip. Obviously it's not a bike specific thing, you can put it on anything that it'll fit on, but magnetically holds the flap down there, which hasn't moved at all. Just flip it open, you've got space there for your phone if you want it. I've just stuck a pen in there at the moment, but I've got the phone in here and it's on charge at the moment. Well, phone's on here obviously, but I've been keeping the phone in here. I can just whip it out, and I've been taking notes about the trip and the sat nav and everything. Just been able to write some notes on that. I've also got my notebook in there and charger. You can get a bottle of water in there. Just a really useful bag. I'm also really impressed with that. It's one of those things that, you know, you fit and you think, I'm not going to be without that again. So that's the Jivy handlebar bag. Absolutely brilliant. So as I say, I'm on the adventurous routing at the moment, which is giving me some lovely twisty back roads, loads of fun, and the seat, not been a problem. I've kind of got a little bit achy, I guess, a couple of times, a little bit sore, but because of the geometry of the bike, the position of the pegs and the position of the bars, it's dead easy to stand up, dead easy to move around, so I've not been suffering. I have genuinely really been comfy and really enjoying this, and I've not felt that the bike's been too slow. I guess the only thing occasionally you get with something of this capacity is that when you go to overtake a car that's maybe doing 60 odd on a dual carriage, not a dual carriageway, sorry, on a back road, you just have to think a little bit more. On a large capacity bike, obviously you can just go before you even have to think about it really. You just blast past. Here you just have to give it a little bit more thought. But you might have noticed my massive top box was a Givi Trekker. To me, having a top box is so useful. I can put loads of stuff in here. I can get 2 full face lids in here. I've got all my kit I need for this trip, which is only an overnighter, but I'm terrible at packing. But Givi's only just released the bracketry for this. So like other racks from Givi, it comes in 2 parts. You get the metal mounting system here, which goes up to a metal plate under here, and then you mount the standard rack on the top. There's also an aluminium plate, which looks really cool, but it just makes all the difference to me. It means I can sling my stuff in there, carry plenty on here, and just jump on the bike and go. And because it's so small, compact, light, easy to ride, it's just so accessible. And, you know, I've been riding since 1996, so I kind of consider myself an experienced rider, but I think you'd be daft to consider this only a beginner's bike. Brilliant beginner's bike, brilliant entry level into the adventure scene, brilliant entry into BMW brand. But for me, I absolutely love this bike. It's genuinely really tempting me to want to keep this a lot longer because I can do so much with this. Now tomorrow I'm going to be riding back as quickly as I can, so I'm just going to go dual carriageways, motorways on the way back. I already know this bike will do 80-85. I don't think it's too vibey. I've done longish distances, but that'll be the furthest I've been. So I'll blast back tomorrow and let you know how I get on with it then. But honestly, so far, really impressed with this bike. Hi, welcome to Bike Social, I'm John. Yesterday I posted on Facebook that I've been riding the BMW G310GS on backroads down to Dorset. It wasn't a massively long ride, but it was 207 miles and it was about 8 hours in total. That included half-hour lunch stop and stopping to take notes and take photos. But it's a long time in the saddle. And despite this being a small capacity bike, it was absolutely brilliant. And I said then that I'd let you know how I get on riding it back, because I came back all motorway. So that was about 108 miles, which again, it's not mind-blowing mileage. But you know, it was 3.5 hours, and I just went as fast as I could to get home. And it was fine. People have said that this bike's just going to be too vibey, too slow, but it's not. Genuinely, you know, it will cruise happily at 80-85. It could get up to 90 mile an hour, apparently, but it's the only time I really noticed the speed was a couple of times uphill into a headwind. It kind of struggled a bit more if I was in top gear, about 75, but just drop it down to 5th and it pulled harder. Generally it was absolutely fine around 80, and honestly there was no point when it's going too slow. One point actually on when I got off the motorway, and that was uphill. I'd just overtaken a lorry, and I was going through the gears, but I was kind of aware of waiting for it to kind of accelerate. Never dangerous though, and never frustrating. And genuinely, you know, I don't love riding on motorways, but sometimes, you know, you just need to get somewhere quick. And yeah, absolutely no issues with this at all. So wind blast, not really a problem. Granny Raid have got a larger screen for this. It was fine, you know, better than a naked bike, not as good as a fully fed Tourer. Vibration, it's a single cylinder, but you can feel it buzzing through the seat, and it really didn't bother me. Genuinely, you know, it just felt fine. Mirrors do vibe a bit. You can kind of, you can't get real detail in what's going on behind you, but the bars doesn't put you off. Seat sitting doesn't put you off. It isn't. It's not uncomfortable vibiness at all. And through the pegs isn't the problem. So the most I got was an achy bum, which I tend to get quicker than other people when I'm on launch, quicker than other riders. I seem to get it. But you know, it didn't feel like a premium quality seat, but it was fine. And the great thing is there's loads and loads of room to move around on this bike. You know, you can really kind of shuffle back, forward, stand up a bit. Obviously you can stand up properly if you're riding off road. But also found you can put your feet on the back of the rear footrest hangers, just kind of rested like that, and that, you know, took a bit of the weight off. But it was fine. So, you know, compared to my KTM here, that is a bit comfier, it's a bit bigger, it's a bit easier, it's a bit more relaxed at speed, but this wasn't stressful at speed. It was, you know, it really was fine. It's revving at about 8,000 RPM, and it's getting high up. Red lines at about, with the rev limiter cuts in at about 11,000. But no, you know, with the wind noise and everything, you're not aware of it screaming, so absolutely fine. So economy, on the way down there, doing all the twisty back roads, I got 71 miles per gallon. BMW claims 85 miles per gallon. I was enjoying my ride down there, but 71 miles per gallon. So with the 11 litre tank, that'd give me 170 miles range, which goes with what I was getting with how I had to fill up. On the way home, just basically I had it pinned most of the time, 58 miles per gallon. That's a range of 140 miles, which again ties in exactly what I found. And that's kind of the biggest frustration really, is that you have to fill up more. And because it was low when I left Christchurch tonight, I filled up shortly afterwards and then had to fill up again before I got home by about 10 miles. I couldn't wait any longer. So that's the only thing I can find really for long distance and motorway and everything, small tank range. But the upside to that is less weight. And you'll also find that a lot if you look at the specified weight spikes, because they're all, or they all should be, ready to ride weights. They're should be with a full tank of fuel. So this is lighter as well, partly because you only got 11 litres. But yeah, really impressed. So obviously I'm going to still do a lot more with this bike. But I hope if you've been thinking about one but been believing people go, it's rubbish for motorways, rubbish for distance because it's too small, it's too vibey. Rubbish. It's good.